look at the celebration right there on the Williamston bench. A championship basketball team can do it all.
My name is Steve Gilmore, former coach at Williamston High School from 1990 to 2008. I took two teams to the state championship finalists, and I enjoyed coaching basketball. At that time, basketball was my life.
Just a little briefing on who you are.
My name is Steve Gilmore, former basketball coach at Williamston High School from 1990 to 2008.
What was your first coaching job?
My first coaching job was in New Bern, North Carolina. I was a JV basketball coach at New Bern High School.
What year was?
That was 1984.
1984. How long you stayed down there?
I stayed down there to 1990 when I came here to Williamston.
Okay. What initially at that time made you go into coaching?
I've always been a coach. Even when I was younger, I had a younger brother that was 5 years younger than me, and I always used to get him out there and coach his friends. So I knew I had coaching in my blood, and that was my thing. I wanted to coach and teach kids the proper way to do things in sports.
Did you coach anything else?
Through the years, I've coached football, I've coached basketball, I've coached track, I've coached baseball. I pretty much coached all the sports in high school.
Of course, you won. You had a state championship appearance in '94, '95, which was the first time that Williamston School had made it back to the state since 1976. Their last championship with Butch Davis. What was the state of the basketball program when you took over?
In Williamston at that time, basketball was just a second tier of everything, because this town was really built on football and baseball. So nobody really looked at basketball as one of the top sports in Williamston at that time. So my job that I was going to do was I was going to make sure I put football and basketball on the same level, winning championships, winning conference championships. So that was my goal when I first came to Williamston, to put it on the map in basketball, because nobody heard of Williamston in basketball.
Were there any state championship expectations for that team in '95 after the '94 team, after the loss in the state championship?
Yes, I wanted to try to get them back there, and I never really had a group of kids that I had in that group of the '94 and '95 group, because the one thing about that group, they had started playing together as probably about 6 years old. They had already been playing together. They played all the way up till they got to me. So I was trying to get that same thing with my other teams, but it never really gelled. Even though we won a lot of games after those two state championships. We won a lot of conference championships. We could never get back. We got a couple of times we got to the Eastern Conference semifinals, but we couldn't get over the hump.
Was there any other seasons that you felt like you had enough talent and experience to make a state championship run?
Out of all the teams I've had in all those years, I wish I would have had the 1990 team more than 1 year. Because what I had when I had the 1990 team, I had a 6'7" big man, I had a 6'4" power forward, I had a good guard, I had a good three-point shooter. But the problem with that team was those guys were all seniors, and when I got them their senior year, they had already went through 3 coaches. So when they got to me, they were like, well, this is going to be one that's going to stay here for 1 year and he's going to be gone. And I set them down the first day of basketball practice and told them, guys, I'm here to stay. So when y'all come back and watch Williamston High School play, you're going to see me on the sidelines. And I think that's the one thing that motivates them guys, but I just wish I would have had them longer, because I had gentlemen on that team, and I'm going to name these gentlemen because they were really, to be honest with you, that was my best team. They was even better than my championship run teams, because I had a 6'7" center that was a great passer, a great rebounder. He ended up playing at Mount Olive. His name is Keno Outlaw. And then I had a power forward. Even before they started talking about a stretch 4, he was a stretch 4. He could shoot the 3, he could play inside. His name was Carlos Williams. And then I had Shelton Slade, who was a point guard, was a slasher. He could get to the rim. He could do all that little stuff that a point guard could do. And then I had a three-point shooter named Eric Pinkett that could shoot the three. He was a great three-point shooter. But I just didn't have him long enough to really get him. I think if I'd have had them one more year, we probably went to the state championship. And we were 2A back then. But that was really my best team, even better than my state championship teams. But nobody never knows that because, like I said, it just took me so long to get them to understand what I was trying to do. Because I'm a flex guy. I run the flex and I press. Right. And they were used to staying in the zone and passing the ball. We like to, but when I got them, I had to teach them to run. I had to teach them to flex from the start. But I think if I'd have had that group that I just named one more year, we'd have won it. We'd have won it outright.
Would have won it on 2A level.
Yeah, on the 2A level.
Wow. Wow.
Because that same year, we went over there and played Washington. It was Coach Smith's last year. You know, the one who coached Dominique Wilkins. Okay. We went over there and played them and beat them in Washington with that 2A team. With that 2A, that team those gentlemen I just named. Okay. And that was his last year coaching.
And for that year, who do y'all, and how far did y'all make it that year?
We made to the third round of the playoffs. Third round. Big time. And but you know, like I said, that group of young men, like I said, if I would have had them long enough and got them to understand that I'm here to stay and they buy in what I'm doing and what I'm trying to do, and by the time they figured it out that I know what I was doing, and they bought into it. You know, the season was about over, because you know I couldn't. You know, with basketball, you play on Tuesday, you play on Friday. You don't have the time to really work with the kids. But this is always my my philosophy when it comes to as a coach. Players don't care about how much you know until they know how much you care. That's when you can really buy in. So it took me that long to get them to understand that I cared for them. Like I said, Keno Outlaw played at Mount Olive, and I don't know if he still got it, but one time he held the record for the most rebounds at Mount Olive. He may still have that record.
Wow.
Yep.
That's wild. So was that your most memorable season, or if it wasn't, what was your most memorable season of your coaching career?
Well, you know, of course, you figure I was going to say my state championship runs, but I think one of my most memorable seasons was 1996. Okay. That's when Roanoke High School made it to the state championship. We went up to Roanoke, gym was full, and we were playing the game, and it was pretty tight. We ended up beating them. We were the only team that year that beat them. And they went to state championship and won it. But we beat them at their place. So that group I had, that was one of the most memorable moments. I mean, the gym people was on the baseline, people was on the side. I mean, it was so crowded. And then to top it off, during the third quarter, for some reason, the power went off in the gym. All the lights went off. When you talking about all those people in that gym, and the power went off. But luckily it came back on, and I had to settle my guys back down because I didn't really have a great player on that team. All of them knew their roles. And that's the thing I had to teach these kids here in Williamston, that in order to be a state champion, you got to understand your role. You might not be the one who's going to score all the points or get all the rebounds, but you got to understand your role. And once they realized that, because that's what made my 94 and 95 team so special, because they understood their roles. Everybody understood their roles. I'm not a three-point shooter, so why am I going to shoot a three-pointer? I'm a rebounder. And to this day, if any of y'all ever see Cornell Griffin, who was a football player, but he played basketball. But if you ever asked him, what was your role when you played at Williamston High School? And he would tell you, rebound, play defense. He knew it. That was his role. That's all he done. That's all he done. He wasn't worried. And if he maybe got a putback, got a layup, that was a plus. But he knew he wasn't going to score no 16, 17, 18 points. but he want to get 16 to 17, 18 rebounds or a couple block shots. But that's the one thing that I try to get all my players to understand their role on the court, because everybody can't be a star. And when you got everybody being a star, who's going to do the dirty work?
Right.
I mean, that was just like on my 95 team. Roosevelt Freeman, he knew he was a defensive stopper. I always put him on there. Whatever team we played, if he was a 1, 2, or 3, he's guarding him because he's my best defender. And he knew that. And he understood his role. And that's what he done. And I think that's one thing that kind of boosted most of my teams. I got them to understand their role on the court, because everybody can't be a scorer. Everybody can't be a great rebounder. You can't handle the ball if that's not your thing. Get them to understand what their role is on the court. And understanding rotation when it's time for somebody to come out, who's going in for who, they understood that stuff. And I think that was the one thing that really motivated me, because they started to buy into what I was trying to do.
How did you come to Williamston?
When I was down in New Bern, I was a JV coach there, and back then that was the Big South. That was New Bern, that was all the 3 Wilmington schools, and the Goldsboro schools, and Jacksonville. And I had won the conference at New Bern JV team 3 years in a row. In my last year, we went undefeated. We didn't lose a game. So I think I was ready to take that step to the head coach of a high school team. And my wife at that time is from Williamston. And she called up here and found out that there was a PE job open at Williamston High School. And I came up here and interviewed with Harold Robinson, who was a good man. And the reason why he hired me, he didn't really hire me for basketball. He hired me to be one of the football coaches, because I played football in college. So I was good with that. He said, well, coach, you can also coach the basketball team. And that's when the light bulb hit. Be the head basketball coach. And that's what I wanted. I wanted to be a head basketball coach. So I helped Coach Robinson out with football my first couple of years. I was a running backs coach, and I was still coaching basketball. And he realized that I was really serious about basketball. So we had an agreement. So I stopped coaching football, and I was just the athletic trainer. So I wouldn't have to spend as much time with football as I would do it, because, as you know, football takes a lot of your time. So he let me be the basketball coach, and that's when everything started, and everything started clicking like it was supposed to.
So when you came, it was 1990. 1990, your first year.
The summer of 1990.
And you started off that first year helping with football.
Yeah. I had with football for 3 years.
So between 1990, who's some of the players you can remember from the football team?
Sheldon Slade was a running back. My point guard, he was a running back. Eric Pinker was a wide receiver. Let's see, who else I had? Derek Gaynor. He was a running back. So I had several of my players did play football. Okay. Because the one thing you had to understand that I don't think coaches do it now. You've got to play more than one sport. See, what's happened with these young parents, and they trying to get their kids this big time scholarship. But my philosophy about that is, when you starting a young man out, let's say he's in middle school, and you say, well, you want him to get a baseball scholarship, so now you got them doing all this baseball stuff. I think what happens is they get burned out. Whereas let the kid introduce him to other sports. He may be even better than the sport he wanted to try to get a scholarship in. So I feel like young kids today don't need to specialize. When you need to specialize, it's probably your junior year. If you're getting all these calls from these universities saying they're interested in you, now it's time for you to start specializing, because you got somebody that's interested in you, talking about giving you a scholarship, and I think that's when you start specializing. You don't start a 10-year-old kid, I'm gonna just let him play baseball, I'm just gonna let him play football, I'm just gonna let him play basketball because he's gonna get a basketball scholarship, he's gonna get a football scholarship. That ain't how you do it. Not at that age. You gotta let him venture out, because he may be better in another sport.
No, I love that. Because they definitely do a lot of specialized.
Yes, They do too much specializing at an early age, and they're too young.
Right.
And then another thing that hurts a kid at that age, especially, just take an example, a pitcher. Let's say he's 8 years old, 9 years old, he's a pitcher, and their parents want him to be a major league pitcher. See, he's using those same muscles all summer, and then he's playing fall ball, now he's playing winter ball, he's doing all this. So he's not using any other muscles. So by the time he becomes a senior, he may not have that velocity with that throw. Because if you ask any of these professional athletes that's in the league right now, especially the older ones, they play more than one sport. So you can rest that muscle. See, that same kid that's throwing that curveball all during baseball season, get him out there and play basketball, now those muscles are resting. But if you're using that same muscle all year long, sooner or later something gonna give. So that's why you need to, you don't need to specialize. You need to let him try a lot of other sports, not just baseball and not just basketball. Let him do a lot of other things.
Okay. And earlier you said the 1990 team for basketball was probably your best team. What year was it when, I guess, people, well, of course they were seniors, they left, but what year was it where they started to trust you and believe in you? Like in this
Good question. Yeah, good question. In this community, I think it took probably about 96 when they realized I knew what I was doing, and what I was doing was the right thing, and we're winning games. We're filling up the gym, because the one thing I was determined I was going to do when I first came here, I saw some old VHS tapes, because they don't even use VHS tapes now, and I'm scanning them, watching the game, and I'm counting the number of people in the gym watching this game, and they're playing somebody like Roanoke or Plymouth, and it may be 60 people in the whole gym. I'm like, what is this? I said, I got to do better than this. I can't. So once I started good, and they started buying into it, and we had people coming to our Williamston basketball games who didn't have a child anywhere. We had older people coming to the game because they wanted to see a good game. And it got to the point when we played somebody like Roanoke or Plymouth, if you didn't get there early, you wasn't going to get in. They had to stop selling tickets. They even opened up the top bleachers on the other side. I mean, that whole gym was full of people because they knew they were going to see a good game.
I got you. Go ahead with the 94 team. 94, like I said, that was the first time bringing the state, appearing in the state. And actually, y'all got it going as far as the 94, 95.
Yeah.
That's when, 95 baseball.
95 was the best year Williamston had. We made it. Let me go through it. We made it to the state championship. Football won it. Baseball won it. Girls track team came in second. Boys track team came in third. So that's probably 95 was probably one of the biggest years at Williamston High School when you're talking about state championship. So, but what happened was, I think my 93, 94 team, when we made it, now everybody started talking about we're going to make it to the state championship. So all the other teams were buying in on we're going to try to make it to the state championship. So that's what really got it. That's what really got it started. But let me tell you about that 93, 94 team.
Yeah, take your time. Yeah, that's what you go ahead and break.
Yeah, let me tell you about that. The first year we made it, we started out the season. We were 2-7. We had just finished the Washington Day News tournament. And Daniel Everett, who was my point guard and my captain of the team, came in the locker room. While I was in there talking to him, I said, well, all right, now the conference getting ready to start, so we got to buckle down and get better. And Daniel Everett told me to leave the locker room. He was going to talk to the team. So, I don't know what he said. I don't know what he said to the boys. But after he came out of that locker room and after we got on that floor, after Christmas, we went on a 21-game winning streak. We didn't lose a game until we went to the state championship game. We went on a 21-game winning streak. I don't know what he said to them. I don't know what they talked about because I wasn't in there, so I didn't motivate them. They motivated themselves because Daniel Evans said he was tired of losing. That's the only thing I heard as I was going out the door because he told me to leave. He said, guys, we're tired of losing. I'm tired of losing. Well, he used some other words in that. I can't use those kind of words on the video, but he said, we're tired of losing. And we went on a 21-game winning streak. We didn't even have a close game. I think our closest game till we got to the state championship was 15. We won by 15. That was the closest game. We went through the whole conference, beat everybody. Everybody. So that probably was one of my memorable times with that team. That's the thing that really turned high school basketball in Williamston around, when they went on that streak. And as you can see in that game, I even told them, I said, guys, if y'all can get me to Greenville, I can get y'all to Chapel Hill. And they said, Coach, we can get you to Greenville. And that's exactly what they done. They got me to Greenville. That's why we made it to Chapel Hill.
Was that the first time, because I think I read the paper. I did go back and find a paper about that undefeated season that year. I think it was the first time you went undefeated in the conference?
Yes.
Okay.
First time. First time.
That don't happen often anyway.
No, because that conference was loaded that year, because we had, see, that's when we got in the conference. We were at Northampton East. They had a good team. Northampton West had a good team. Chocowinity was really good. That's when they started Southside.
Okay.
So we had some battles. But they put it together, and I just orchestrated it, and they went out there and produced what I had orchestrated, and it turned out to be a great season. But that was one of my most memorable seasons, going 21-0. And as you can see during the state championship game, even though I have less hair now, they told me if they went undefeated in the championship, in the conference championship, I had to cut my head to a bald head. So I had a bald head there. That's when my hair was just starting to grow back. Because I betted them, because I said, they can't do it. They ain't gonna go undefeated in the conference. But they did. They went undefeated in the conference.
On the 95 season, let's go ahead and let you break down the 95 season.
Now the 95 season was just as memorable, because even though I lost several players, I lost one to injury, and I lost 2 players to academics, we still went 25-5. We only lost 5 games that year. And what I had to do was I had to move some JV kids up on varsity to take their spots. I moved up DJ Reddick and Michael Lee, because they were on JV. That's how they got on the 95 state championship team, because I lost Roosevelt Freeman to grades, I lost Jarvis Cofield to grades, and I lost Joseph Toumu, who went to Georgetown and played at Georgetown. I lost 3 players. Roosevelt was my 2 guard. Jarvis was my 6 man off the bench, because Jarvis could play 3, 4, or 5. And then I lost Joe. And I had to move up DJ Reddick and Michael Lee.
I think I heard that.
Yep.
I heard about that.
Yep.
Steve Gilmore, what a nice coaching job he's done. You've mentioned it earlier, Mike. Great coaching matchup today. These teams deserve to be there because of talent, but also because of coaching.
How did you get into basketball?
My 2 biggest mentors are legendary Hall of Fame coaches. My first one was Clarence Big House Gaines at Winston-Salem State. And the reason how I got into basketball was he was my senior advisor at Winston-Salem. And see, I went to Winston-Salem on a football scholarship. Basketball was just my second nature. I really wasn't I was thinking I was going to be a football coach. But with him being my senior advisor, he used to make me come to practice. He used to help me. I had to help him make the practice schedules up. And some of the closer games, I would go to the games with him. And then in 1984, my senior year, he was inducted into the Naismith Hall of Fame. And the guest speaker was John Thompson. So that's how I met John Thompson. I met John Thompson when I was in college. And I got to meet him then. And those were the 2 men that really instilled in me that I could be a basketball coach.
What was your relationship with the legendary coach, John Thompson?
Well, I first met him when I was at Winston-Salem State, because he was the guest speaker for Clarence Big House Gaines, who got inducted into the Naismith Hall of Fame. And I met him then, and years later, I never thought I would meet him again, but once I came to Williamston and started coaching, I called up there and see if he had any openings for working his summer basketball camp, because Coach Thompson used to have a camp who runs 2 weeks. I talked to one of his assistants, and he said, we'll see, we'll let you work one week, and we'll see how it works out and see if we'll invite you back for the next week. So I started working the camps, and Coach Thompson was really impressed with my work, and then he came down and was talking to me and asked me where I coached at in high school, and I told him I coached in Williamston, North Carolina, And he said he knew a couple of people from North Carolina. And years went by, because I think I worked at the camp for probably about 7, 8 years in a row. And then one time he came to me, he said he had this player that he's trying to get him from Africa to come over to America to play basketball, because he wanted him on his team. Because back then, when you're an exchange student, in order to play college basketball, you had to have 1 year of American history. And you know, most foreign countries, they don't teach no American history in Africa, in Asia, nowhere like that. So he said he could come to Williamston, and see, the rule was you could have one exchange student. He couldn't stay with me, because that'd be like recruiting. So Mo Matthew decided to keep Joe at his house. So Coach Thompson, we kept in contact, and then Joe finally came over from Africa, and he graduated from Williamston High School in 1995, his senior year. And to me, that was going to be my final piece. That in '95 we're going to win this thing, because I got my final piece. Because Joe was about 6'2", played point guard, could shoot the lights out. I said, that's my final piece. We're going to win it. So, getting into the season, when I had Joe, actually the season had started, we had a scrimmage game, and we were scrimmaging in Washington. And it was and that was before the gym had air conditioning. So when the weather changed, condensation would build up on the floor, and the floor would get slick. And I had never seen that many people at a scrimmage game. Everybody wanted to see the kid going to Georgetown that Coach Gilmore had that came from Africa. So the gym, we had a scrimmage game. The gym was full like we were playing Plymouth or Roanoke. And we tipped off the ball. First play down the court, Joe steals the ball going for a layup. Second play, they watch him come down. He steals the ball again, goes down and make a layup. I said, we're ready to go. Third time, he steals the ball. He goes in for a layup, and he jump stops, and his foot slid out from under him, and he tore his patella tendon. So he never got to play a single game at Williamston High School, only a scrimmage. Never got to play a single game. My hardest thing was calling up Coach Thompson and telling him that Joe had gotten injured and he gonna miss the whole season, because he'd already signed his letter of intent to go to Georgetown. That was the hardest thing, but Thompson was a good man about it. He said, Coach, that's all right, those kind of things happen. He said, bring him up here to D.C., and he got his surgery done up there in D.C., and he came back and finished out his senior year and graduated. And his next year he was at Georgetown, and he was a backup point guard to Allen Iverson.
That's wild. I ain't know all that stuff. So I know he's a scout now, though.
Yeah, that's what he does now.
International.
Right.
And so you had good products come through there. On that note, can we talk about a few? Just mention it can be brief. A few good products. I know all of them good products.
Yeah.
Just a few players that you may have had gone play college ball or things of that nature.
I had, let's see, Elton Cofield. I had him, and he played at Mount Olive, and I think he was inducted to the Mount Olive Hall of Fame. And like I told you earlier, I had Keno Outlaw that played at Mount Olive. And, I think those are only two that went off and played college basketball.
Did well, I don't know who actually finished. I know, did Kurt go to Elizabeth City?
Yeah, I forgot about Kurt. Kurt didn't finish at Elizabeth City, but he went to Elizabeth City. And I think it was his freshman year at Elizabeth City when they had some kind of, I think back then college had done homecoming during basketball season. He won the dunk contest. Curtis Cofield won the dunk contest at Elizabeth City.
Okay. That's what's up. And I think Keon actually played on a JV now.
Yeah.
You had a few that do things.
Yeah, I had a few that done some things. Yeah,
that's pretty cool. As far as Nut, I was 4 and 5 at the time, the 94, 95. But just knowing y'all went to state, and that's all we've been able to talk about. Basketball never went back for the boys.
Right.
So even when I was in school, only pride we had Ford basketball at that time was still talking about 94, 95.
Oh yeah.
So Nut was kind of he my book. He the GOAT. But
oh yeah.
Just to be able to.
Let me tell you about Daniel. He started 4 years for me. He started as a freshman. And, you know, his freshman year, he took his lumps. He turned the ball over. He done some bad things. But every year, he got better. So by the time he was a senior, he was a coach on the court. He'd run down the court. And holler over there, "Coach, we need a timeout." I'm calling a timeout. Because we had the same thinking. We were thinking the same thing all the time. He'd be like, "Coach, we need to get him out here. He was just like a coach on the court. He was pretty much me on the court. So, you know, like I say, he probably wasn't my best skilled person, but as for commanding and controlling of the team or controlling of the game, he controlled the game at a point guard. He was never a great shooter, but he could get to the rack. And he had dribbling skills that they're doing now that they weren't doing back then. He could handle that ball. He was just one of the best. He probably one of the best guards I ever seen when they're talking about handling the ball. Because when teams tried to press us, we throw the ball in the nut. He tell everybody going down court. He bringing it up. He ain't worrying about passing it. He was just that tough when it came to basketball. He just could handle that ball. I mean, like I said, he done some things that they're doing now that you didn't see back then. And I think probably one of the most amazing thing, and I don't think we got it on tape. I wish we would have had it on tape. We were playing in the Washington Daily News tournament, and we were playing Washington. And Nut stole the ball. He was going down for a layup. And Washington's two big, I think one was 6'4", one was 6'6", was trailing him. And I said, if he lay that ball up, they're going to smack that thing on the rim. He threw that ball off the backboard, and they jumped. Curtis Cofield came from behind and caught the ball off the backboard, and dunked it. I ain't never seen nothing like that, especially in high school. He just tossed it up there. And the two big guys from Washington jumped, tried to block the shot. But they didn't realize he was just throwing it off the backboard, so it bounced off the backboard. And Curtis caught it and dunked it. People ran out of the gym. I ain't never seen nothing like that. He was just that kind of player. And he was one of those type of players. I put it like this. He was a young Magic Johnson. Because if you wasn't looking, if you open and you ain't looking, you're going to get hit in the chest with the ball because he's going to get it to you. He's going to find a way to get it to you. He was a great passer. He was a great orchestrator. He can get everybody in place. He knew what we needed to run. So overall, you know, even though he wasn't my best skilled player, but as all, I love him to death because he knew exactly what I was thinking all the time. And he was just that coach on the court.
I love hearing the stories.
Oh, yeah. He was my coach on the court. Now I'm trying to tell you, he was my coach on the court.
Any colleges or anything? Because I have heard rumors. Of course, you know. I mean.
All right, let's hear the rumors.
Well, I'm a little younger than those guys. I think they got me beat by 13 years.
Right.
So, but for some of the stuff I heard was he had interest from George,
Yeah. Well, actually, Curtis had an interest. They were interested in Curtis at Georgetown because I took Curtis up there to Georgetown basketball summer camp, and they were interested in him. But the biggest problem back then, it was their size, and that was the problem with Daniel, was his size because he wasn't but 5'4", 5'5". But and I tried to explain to the coaches because Wake Forest was interested in him. A couple of D1 schools were interested in him, but they were just concerned about his size because he wasn't a big guy. But I tried to tell him he could overcome that. He could be another Muggsy Bogues type because he had that kind of dribbling skills. But I just wish. And then, I think if he would have had the type of grades. Now, he wasn't a dumb student, but he was just an average student. But if he had one of those honor roll type, they would have probably took a chance on him. They would have took a chance on him. I think that's the only thing that kind of held him back because he was just an average student. And I think if he would have really buckle down, because he had the knowledge to do it. He just really would, it just wasn't his thing. He was just a ball player. But I think he would have got a scholarship also. He would definitely got a scholarship just on his ball handling alone. But back then the colleges wanted the point guards to also be shooters, and he was never a great shooter. But he could get to the rack on anybody. Now I'm trying to tell you, he could get to the rack. I don't know how he used to do it, but he used to get to the rack.
And he's got to love this. He's got somebody one-on-one.
I've seen the game, of course, the regional game. The stuff he was doing.
Yeah, he could get to the rack. Now I'm telling you, he could get to the rack.
But it was just interesting hearing them stories about him. Could have possibly been like a backup to Allen Iverson.
He could have been.
Yeah.
He could have been. He could have been.
And as far as John Thompson, did he ever get a chance to see your '94 team or '90? I'm sure. I know he came probably to '95. Did he ever get to see him practice or play?
Yeah. He came. Matter of fact, when before Joe got hurt, he called me up and said he wanted to come down and see, because one thing back then, colleges wanted to measure kids' wingspan. That was a big thing John had, was wingspan. What is this wingspan? And that kind of thing, because they play that tough defense, because what happens is, when you guarding somebody and you got your hands out there and you got a long wingspan, to your perception, I can't go right to his hands. I got to go all the way around him there. So that's what that was the one thing he done. And he came down and watched us practice. He came down one night, because we always had the late practice, 7 to 9. And he came down, him and one of his assistants, and watched us practice. But he was kind of interested in Daniel, but he was just his size. That was the only thing that held him up.
Guess who? Daniel Everett. And he gets the shot.
Chris, I'm really impressed with Daniel Everett. He can do it all. He's even getting inside the paint.
When did you first see Daniel Everett?
First time I saw Daniel play, I think he may have been about 7, 8, 9 years old, here in the Gaylord Perry Park Recreation Bench. He was playing basketball. And I used to referee on Saturdays. And people didn't realize the reason why I refereed on Saturdays, I'm scouting talent. I'm looking for, who's going to be my next, big-time player. And I saw this little kid dribbling the ball around. Couldn't nobody take it from him. He dribbling the ball around. He wasn't a great shooter. Couldn't hardly make layups, but he could just handle that ball. And then I started watching him, and I went to a couple games over at Williamston Middle School and saw him play. And I said, I got to get this kid. This kid's got to play for me. So when he came over to high school, his freshman year, he played football also. And he got hurt midway through the season. And football season was over with. So now basketball season getting ready to start. Because matter of fact, that's another reason why I came today, because November 1st is always the first day of basketball practice, high school basketball, November 1st. So all the kids were telling me, Coach, Peanut ain't gonna play. I said, Peanut ain't gonna play? His mama said he got hurt in football, so he ain't gonna play no more sports at that high school. So I had to go to Christian Manor and sit down and beg his mama to let him play basketball his freshman year. I said, he gonna be all right. I'm gonna take care of him. He gonna be fine. But I think I had to stay there. I think I even had to eat dinner with him. I stayed there that long to convince that woman to because she was not gonna let him play. And on that note, she wasn't gonna let him come to the regional championship game in Greenville, because his sister was getting married.
Daniel he's in a wedding. He's the best man in the wedding. And I got to shuttle him back to Williamston right at this time.
He ain't going over there to play no basketball. His sister getting married. He the best man. I promised his mom I'm going to get him back. Matter of fact, I had my assistant coach make sure he didn't ride on the bus with it. He drove his car. I said, look, man, you got to get Peanut back to Williamston so he won't miss this wedding. So that's why he didn't get to get his award, because as soon as the game was over with, he had to go to the locker room and change clothes. And McKinley Williams, who was my assistant coach, drove him back to Williams so he'd make it to his sister's wedding, because he was the best man. But she wasn't going to let him play basketball. She was not going to let him play. She was determined that he wasn't going to play no sports at that high school. He's going to get his diploma. I said, and I told her, I said, you got to let him play. He can do it. So after maybe a couple hours, like I said, I sat down and ate dinner with him and everything. I kept talking to her, so she finally agreed. And the one thing she promised me, she told me, you better not let my boy get hurt. I said, I ain't going to let him get hurt. He's going to be fine. And that's how the legendary Daniel Everett started, because he was not going to play basketball. His mama was not going to let him play.
That's wild. That's wild.
She was not going to let him play. Woo. And that's what the boy, see, all the players, that's what they said. Coach, we gotta have Peanut. That's our point guard. That's our point guard. I mean, that's just like that would be just like the Kansas City Chiefs without Mahomes. What are they gonna do without Mahomes? You can't do it. Or New England without Brady. Because you see, you can't do it. And that's what Peanut was. He was my quarterback. So he was my point guard from his freshman year to his senior year. He was always a point guard. And everybody kept wondering why I kept him in there. Because, a couple of times his freshman year, he turned the ball over, he doing things. I said, he's got to learn. I said, in a couple more years, you're gonna thank me for letting him play. Because the one thing I understand that I don't like what some of these coaches do now, if you're going to bring a freshman up on varsity, he got to play. If he's going to be just sitting on the bench as numbers, he's not getting no experience. He might be getting experience in practice, but he's not getting that game experience. Game experience is a lot different from practice experience. So if you're going to pull a freshman up off of JV to your varsity team, he's got to play. And if he doesn't play, you might well move him down. So he at least getting experience on JV playing. And so that's what I've done with Daniel. So he took his lumps. His freshman and sophomore year. But by his junior year, nobody wanted no piece of Daniel Everett. They couldn't stop him. They could not. He had gotten all that confidence in. He understood. He understood, everybody talk about, especially now, basketball IQ. He had it back then. And that was one thing we didn't talk about in the 90s, basketball IQ. He had basketball IQ. He understood it that much. And he was a legendary player around here. They say what they want to say. I witnessed it. I was there. I coached him. I knew him like he was my son, because when I came here, see, I have no sons. I got 3 daughters. Didn't play no sports. So those boys, that's another reason why I felt that way about my teams. All of them, every last one of them. They were like my sons. Because I never had a chance to raise a son or coach a son or anything like that, because I had daughters.
Yeah, you definitely was a father figure to everybody.
Yeah.
I remember you gave me your windsuit.
Because you didn't have one. Hey, man. Hey, look. That's what I felt about all y'all, man. That's what I felt about all y'all. Y'all were all, whatever team came, they were all my children. Yeah. I didn't feel no better about Daniel than I feel about the 13th man on the team. I felt the same about all of them.
Is there any players that you wish you would have had in them earlier years?
Ooh.
Or any year?
I'll tell you one that I wish I would have had with Daniel and them. His name is David Massenberg.
Talk about David.
All right, let me talk a little bit about David Massenberg. But Daniel could tell him about it, because they wanted me to put him on the team. He wanted to play. I mean, he wanted to play because they'd play in PE all the time, and he would just put it like this. He was just as good as Daniel, not with the ball handling, but the shooting and everything else. But his mama was a Jehovah's Witness, so they wouldn't let him play. I tried to talk to his mama into letting him play. He'd have been on that 93, 94, 95 team.
So he was young then.
Yeah.
He was a junior that year.
Yeah. He was just good. And next time you see ask Daniel about David Massenberg. I tried my best to talk to his mama, but she was a Jehovah's Witness, and they didn't believe in that kind of stuff. And when you get into religion and stuff, I just my hands are tied. Ain't nothing I can do. Ain't nothing I can say or do. But she wouldn't let him play because he was a Jehovah's Witness. But you ask the boys about David Massenberg. And you talking about, he could shoot better than Roosevelt. He could shoot better than Anthony Slade. He could shoot the ball. He had a smooth stroke too. Okay. And I put it like this, and the reason why I knew that, and I didn't find it out till one day they had open gym, and he used to come to open gym. That's when I first saw him. And I saw him pulling up shooting jumpers, and I'm like, who is that? That's David Massenberg. And I said, that's another piece of the puzzle. But Mama wouldn't let him play.
Right. Before we go into 95, talk about that 93, 94 team, but also how did Ali, because I know did Ali come in the middle of the season in
93, 94.
He came in the middle of the season. Because I seen Coach talking about it in the paper.
Yeah.
Talk about Ali Shepherd coming to you.
Well, what happened was when Ollie Shepherd, his mama lived in White City. But Jared Garley, who was coaching in Roanoke, would pick him up every day and take him to Roanoke. So he went to Roanoke for the football because they had a good football coach at that time. And the boys were telling me about Ollie because, you know, they all the ones in the neighborhood knew because he lived in White City. So the last time we played Roanoke in football, it was his junior year. And see, at that time, I was just a trainer. I was standing on the sidelines. And they were lining up for a kickoff. They was kicking off to us, and Ollie Shepherd was lining up on my side. He said, "Coach, I'm coming to Williamston for basketball." I ain't had nothing to do with it. So next thing I know, Mama enrolls him at Williamston High School his junior year. So his junior year, he played for me. His junior year, he played football at Roanoke, but he played basketball at Williamston. Because he was Curtis and Larry McGeechan's backup.
Yeah, that's wild.
Mm-hmm.
That's wild.
I had nothing to do with it. Even though I knew he was living in our district, I didn't go to no Board of Education and said he's going to school out of district. He came on his own.
I got you. Because I know he was a big piece. I mean, when he played on both of your.
Oh yeah, he was a real big piece. Because before Ollie came, see, I had nobody to really guard Curtis.
Okay, for practice.
Practice, exactly. So he dominated, and you don't want that because he gonna have it in his mind. Right, can't nobody stop me.
Right.
But then I got Ollie, and Ollie could guard him because he was just as long and tall as Curtis. Now he couldn't jump as high as Curtis, but he was just as long. He was a long player. So Ollie was my first big man off the bench because I had a rotation. Ollie was always the first big man off the bench. And then if I had to get a guard to come off the bench, one of the white boys named Chris Howley would come off the bench. And then I would move Roosevelt to the point, or I'd move Anthony to the point if I had to take Roosevelt out.
Okay.
So they were like a rotation. So that's how I done that.
So now you can just speak on that 94 team.
That 93, 94 team, like I said, they were a very special team because all of them got along. They all got along. And they all played together like on weekends and stuff. I can't remember the name of that basketball court used to be over here. Oh, God, what's the name of that court they used to play on? I can't think of the name of it now.
What, Sideshow? Was it Sideshow?
Yeah, Sideshow.
Okay.
The white boys would call up nutting them and say they want to come over and play ball. So they'd meet them at the block, meet them at the corner, and come down with them so nobody wouldn't bother them. So they're out there playing ball. So that team was more of a family. They grew up together. They played here at the recreation department together. They played in the middle school together. So that team was the start of it. That was the start of that family because all those young men hang out together. As a matter of fact, I saw Jack Hardison at Coach Robinson's funeral, and he said he still talks to Roosevelt and Larry and all of them, and they all live in Raleigh now, and they still pretty tight. So that was a family. They were a family.
Yeah, that's cool. That's crazy. That's good to know because I always heard about how they used to go to Sideshow.
They go to Sideshow. Yeah, they go to Sideshow, and they bring the white boys. The white boys would come over there and play with them. And when nobody bothered them, because they knew those white boys were part of the basketball team. Right. So we're going to let them play, and we ain't going to bother them. Yeah. So that's how it was. It was a family.
It was good times in Williamston.
Oh, yeah.
I still think, I know that 94 was the start of something special.
Yeah.
In Williamston. Going all them years. And even the 94 and 95, the only two basketball championships that we appeared in. For men's.
Yeah.
And out of 50, 60.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Longer than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good time. As
Yeah.
far as 95, we can jump right into 95. How was it different coming off of that championship appearance, especially like practice, school-wise? You became like a celebrity in the school.
Yeah, but but I'll tell you what. Well, 95 was probably even harder because what I had to end up doing, had to break that team down. 93, 94 is over with. This is a whole new season. So I had to treat them like we ain't won nothing, we ain't done nothing. Almost about like to the old days before Williamston was anything in basketball. And like I said, that year, 95, let's see, 93, 94 year, we lost 7 games. 94, 95, we lost 5 games. And we shouldn't have lost them. But I think the worst part about that's when I lost those players. Because, back then, semesters ended at Christmas time. And then them grades come out in January, and then y'all got to go in there and check grades and see who's eligible, who's not eligible. So with that 95 team, that's when I lost Roosevelt and I lost Jarvis. And then that's when Joe had already gotten hurt. So that's 3 main pieces right there. And I'm like,
how did that, before we go on to the rest of the half of the season, how did that hurt? How did that affect?
Well, it really affected me because I'm like, I'm wanting, because see, the last thing I said when I left Chapel Hill in 93, 94 is, we're going to be back. And then I was thinking to myself, after I lost them 3 players, I said, I guess I can't keep my word now because we're losing them 3 players. But then I said, I can get DJ Reddick and I can get Chico. And then I gotta let Nut teach them what we're doing. So when I had them, Chico was a shooter and DJ pretty much was that type of player. Whatever you tell him to do, he's gonna do it, hands down. But I didn't have that. I didn't have that Roosevelt Freeman like, Coach, I got him. He ain't scored no more. I didn't have that player no more. And that made a difference. But, considering the season that we had, it still was a good season because the rest of them stepped up. Everybody else stepped up and realized we got to make up for them boys. And I just hated the day they had to miss it because I still say that team would have won. If I'd have had Jarvis and I'd have had Roosevelt and I had Joe.
That'd been clear cut.
Yeah.
I mean, that would have been easy.
We wouldn't have went 25-5. We probably went 30-0. Yeah, we definitely wouldn't. Nobody would have beat us if I'd had all them players because I already had in my mind how I was going to rotate them. I was going to have them in a defensive mode because see, the thing that people didn't understand before Joe got hurt, he was even a better defender than Roosevelt, and he was longer and taller. So that means I had 2 Roosevelts on the court. So that means ain't no guards penetrating. Ain't no penetration gonna happen with them two playing. So now I got Peanut being a free safety. He's picking off any passes, anything they try to throw. So that team was special, man. That team would have been special. And here's the thing I know you don't know, and I don't think nobody knows. Even after I got Joe and Joe went on to Georgetown, after the season over with, Coach Thompson called me again. He had 2 players that he wanted me to keep. A 6'8" and a 6'9". Central office put a stop to it. They wouldn't let me get them. I was gonna have a 6'8" and a 6'9". You remember Boubacar Owl that played for Georgetown? He would have came to Williamston. He come from Saul, come in because they somehow they made a rule up. You can only have 1 foreign exchange student. You can't have 2. And see, they were a package deal. Coach said if I had to take one, I had to take the other one. And I couldn't take but one, but they weren't gonna go by themselves, so I didn't get them. And the strangest thing about that was, after I had Joe, several colleges called me up. Coach, you gonna get any more of those exchange students? Just let me know if you're gonna get some more of those exchange students. Yeah, I was getting calls everywhere. And it got to the point one time there that I was so deep into basketball, I even had a chance to coach on the college level. But I said, I don't know if I want to leave them. Yeah. But several things played a part in it. One, my kids were young. That was one of the things that played a part in it, that they were young. And also, back then, second and third assistant basketball coaches wasn't making the kind of money that they make now. So when I was looking at the pay scale, to be honest with you, the first job offer I had was at Siena University under Paul Hewitt. Okay. Now I know you don't know him, but I'm gonna bring him up to spot, and then you're gonna realize who he is. Paul used to work the basketball camps with me in Georgetown, but he had a position at Siena. And Siena was a small D1 school, but that's upper New York. The cost of living. And I was looking at my pay scale that, I really wasn't making that much more than I'm making here in Williamston compared to New York. But after that next year, that's when Paul Hewitt went to Georgia Tech. You remember when Georgia Tech played in the national championship game? They lost it. He was the coach.
He was the head coach.
He was the head coach, and he would have took me down there with him. So hindsight is 20/20. But if I'd have known that, I'd have told my family, y'all stay here. Let me go up here for this 1 year, and then we're going down to ATL at Georgia Tech, ACC. I had a chance to coach at Georgetown.
That would have been crazy to see you out there.
But look, let me tell you. Now, see, I know you don't remember because you're young. Remember 9/11? The buildings.
Yeah, I went in 6th grade.
In 6th grade.
Yeah.
I was going up to Georgetown that morning for my job interview, and to go to Georgetown, you got to go by the Pentagon, and that's where one of those planes hit the Pentagon right there. I was on 95 and all that traffic, so I'm always gonna remember 9/11 because
You was on the way to.
I was on the way to my job interview at Georgetown when 9/11 hit. And I didn't even realize it because, see, I was driving between Williamston and going to D.C. It wasn't no good radio stations. So I was listening to a CD. So I didn't know what was going on. So I get out in Alexandria, Virginia. Traffic just dead stop, both ways. Because, that plane hit the Pentagon. And I'm thinking, and I'm seeing these helicopters flying over in these black SUVs riding on the service lane. So I'm thinking, to me, I'm thinking, well, maybe the president's coming through and they just stopping the traffic. So I said, I'm just going to get off this exit and go in this IHOP till all this traffic die down. Man, I go in the IHOP, man, everybody in there crying and upset. I'm like, what's going on? What's going on? They said a plane just crashed into the Pentagon and one crashed into the Twin Towers. So I ain't know all that was going on, but I was going up there for a job interview. And I said, you think about stuff that happened like that for a reason. I think that was the reason why I didn't even reschedule the job interview. So that's why I stayed here.
And that would have been in 2001? What were you?
Yeah, 2001. It was 2001.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. I'd have been gone.
Wow.
Yep.
Good to know them stories. It would have been a good look though, because you definitely put on you had a style. John Thompson would have loved you down there.
Oh yeah. Cause like I told you, I told the guy out there, I may have been the only person that wasn't in his circle that had his number in my cell phone. Like if he was living right now, I could pick up my cell phone and call, not the basketball office. I could call his cell. I had his cell phone number. I could just talk to him. I mean, we'd gotten that close. We'd really gotten that close. And to me, he was, everybody talking about, that's John Thompson. To me, he didn't feel like that, because I've been around him so long. He was like matter of fact, he's like my second daddy.
That's wild.
I should have brought my picture up because I got a picture.
Yeah, I was thinking.
I should have brought that picture. Next time I'm gonna do it. Yeah,
even the picture of the, like I'll probably get the.
Yeah, I got a picture of him. Man, I look like I'm a little boy compared to him.
I think your daughter posted it before.
She may have, yeah, but I'm gonna bring that picture and let you see it. Yeah, man.
And far as Allen Iverson, did you ever get a chance to just?
I met him. He came through when I was working the basketball camps.
Yeah, I figured, okay.
And the thing about Allen that people didn't understand is even back then, he ain't studying no basketball camp. He want to play you one-on-one. He want to beat you. That's him. Come on, let's play one-on-one. He ain't want to work on nothing. He just want to play you one-on-one. But I think The biggest thing, I mean, the most, I guess, outrageous thing I saw at Georgetown when I was there. Now, Georgetown don't play on that campus. You know, they play at the downtown, the Washington Center. But they had a practice facility on their campus. And it's one of those old-fashioned gyms. You know, the gyms used to have a stage on one end. What Coach Thompson done, he put a wall at that stage and he put a small gym in the back where a lot of his professional players can go back there and work out without anybody gonna bother them. You can't look in the gym and see them working out because they're behind that wall. One day I went back there because I heard some noise. Patrick Ewing, Alonzo Mourning, Dikembe Mutombo back there playing 21. You try to imagine them three big jokers playing 21 on that goal. Man, you talking about some bodies flying everywhere and some cussing going on.
Any more thoughts on the 95 team?
Nut, Daniel, and Curtis came in the locker room one day after we had lost those three players. And he said, we're gonna dedicate this season to those three that we lost. They should be in this locker room with us. And that's when they really started playing. Like I said, we only lost 5 games that year. And they really came together because we lost those players. Even though they would, sometimes they'd come to the games, home games, and then sometimes I can understand why they wouldn't come because they know they would be down there on that bench with us. But I think, with Daniel dedicating and not ridiculing them guys because they didn't pass their grades and that kind of stuff. But I think that team really wanted to prove that we can still do it even without them, because that's one thing everybody was saying. I mean, even the newspaper guys were saying, how you going to get back? You say you're going to get back. How you going to get back without those 3 players? We talking about 3 key components. We ain't talking about, we talking about my starting 2 guard. And see, I was going to play Joe. He was going to play the 3, but then sometimes he might play the 1 and move Peanut to 2. So I had interchangeable. That means I got two point guards, and then I got Jarvis who could play the 5, could play the 4, or play the 3.
Yeah,
and see,
I heard he was.
Yeah.
I heard if he was dead, it was easy.
Oh yeah, it'd been a done deal.
How was the journey getting back after that? How was the journey the rest of the season?
Rest of the season. So they stepped it up. Everybody stepped it up. Everybody knew they had to do a little better because we lost all those role players. We lost our best defender. We lost our best 6-man, and we lost Joe, who could probably do about all, So everybody stepped up. Everybody started playing better. Even Nutt started shooting the ball a little better for some reason after that. Everybody just started stepping up, and that's when we went on that run. We went on that run like we did, even though we didn't win 21 in a row. But like I said, that year we did go 25-5. We only lost 5 games.
And who did y'all beat in the region? How did the regionals go that year?
The regionals, we beat Columbia.
Columbia, okay.
We beat Columbia. We played Chocowinity in the semis. Yeah, because they were still Chocowinity then. And then we beat Columbia in the championship game.
Okay.
In '95.
And then lost to Jordan
Matthews. Jordan Matthews.
Okay. That's a pretty cool story, man. A quick briefing on the 95 team.
They were determined, and they were going to prove everybody wrong. And for some reason, we were very superstitious. And what I mean by superstitious, everybody had to sit in the same seat on the bus when we had away games. Nothing made everybody sit in the same. Man, you wasn't sitting there like, you supposed to be sitting right there. So we were very superstitious, and they were very cautious about anything. Anytime something didn't go right, Nut got it straightened out for us. I mean, he was always there. Like I said, he was always that leader. And he's going to be one of the players I'm never going to forget. Even though out of all those players I had players, like I said, way more talented than he was, but he just had that it factor. He just had that I don't know what you call it, but he just knew when to turn it on and keep it on. He was just that kind of player in '95. He just had to take over. Because he had to take over that, because at that time, because see, after we finished the '94 season and we got ready to go into the '95 season, let's see, he was averaging 10 a game. Roosevelt was averaging 15 a game. Curtis was averaging 14 a game. Larry was averaging 10 a game. So that means we losing those points. And then you got Jarvis coming off the bench. He was averaging about 8 and about 10 rebounds a game. So, you know, everybody had to take up the slack. So that's pretty much what happened. They took up the slack for them young men, because I still say that team would have won it. We'd have went back that 95 year. We'd have won it. If we'd have had them three, it'd have been hands down. It wouldn't even been close. Because most of those teams we played that year, even though, like I said, we only lost 5 games, there's some games, fourth quarter, nothing them wasn't even playing. Because we was that far, you know, they sitting on the bench, drinking water, chilling out, because we'd put on such a good showing in the first, second, third quarter, because they were determined they were going to prove everybody wrong. You know, because, you know, a lot of people saying it's a fluke. That was a fluke that 93, 94 team. They're a fluke. They're a fluke. No, it wasn't a fluke. They were determined to get back and show people that they still could do it. And that's the one thing about that team. Showed a lot of heart, because, you know, most teams you figure you're gonna lose one of your second best players. You're gonna lose 2 of your second best players, and then you're gonna lose your top 6 man. They ain't gonna make it back. Ain't no way they're gonna make it back. Not losing those players at the end of the semester. But they were determined that they were going to win it. They were going to get us back there, and they got us back there. And I give them that same little speech when the playoffs time started hitting me. All right, guys, y'all get me to Greenville, I can get y'all to Chapel Hill. That was always my speech I used to tell them when the playoffs started. If y'all can get me to Greenville, I can get y'all to Chapel Hill.
Coming off them 2 times, off the 94 and 95, what was it like in Williamston for Williamston basketball?
Everybody, people were coming to the games. Everybody was coming to the game. Like I said, by 96, everybody was coming to the games, no matter who we were playing. If we were playing Badgrass, everybody be at the game. We playing anybody, because they know they were going to see some exciting basketball. They were going to see some real good basketball. And them young men, you know, they played hard, and, you know, we had our chances to make it back, but, you know, sometimes that ball don't bounce your way sometimes. It just didn't do it that time. But I think the thing that made it tougher for us that 96 year, we're a wholesome name now. Everybody know Williamston basketball. We got to get ready for them. So that 96 year, we got everybody's best game. Everybody's best game. Because you know what I'm saying? We're going to beat them. Pretty much like what the Chiefs went through last year. You know, we there now. That's already been to state 2 years in a row. Here's this next year coming. And those kids, like I said, that still wasn't a bad team, and they play hard. We just couldn't get over that hump. You know, we just didn't have that. We didn't have that Daniel Everett type player there. The one thing I wanted to make sure I done with every player I coached, from the worst to the best. I wanted to make sure. I wanted to try to be good human beings. And I want to be a role model. I want to be a positive role model. That's why if you go around Williamston and ask anybody about me, you never heard about me hanging out, doing nothing like that. Most of the time I'm home on the weekends, or I'm in the gym, because I always want them to pick me as a positive role model. I want them to be that way to their own kids or their own grandkids when they get older. And, you know, it don't take much. If you're just doing the right thing, that's enough for a young kid to see you do. Because what we don't realize as an adult, you might not think kids are watching you, but they're watching everything that you do. They're watching you. You might not think they're watching you. They're watching it, and they're listening. So I want to make sure I give all these kids a positive role model. And that was my main goal. That's why I used to help out with the recreation, like I said, I used to referee basketball. I even used to referee football. But I want them to see me as Coach Gilmore, the man that's going to help out anybody he can. And that's my whole thing. I'm going to try to help out whoever I can. And any help I can do, I'm there for them, and that was one of my main goals, to make sure everybody get the best out of life, and you know, and it ain't always going to be rosy, but you got to be able to overcome all that adversity that comes in your life and keep going, and that's what I want them to do. And I think that's what a lot of my players understand now that they're adults, that you're going to have some bumps in the road. Everything ain't going to be rosy, but that's probably one of the main things I was really concerned with, making sure that I was a positive role model. You ain't reading about me in the police blotter. You ain't reading about me beating on some woman or doing something like this. That was not the role I wanted them to see me as. Or I saw Coach Gilmore out there drinking. He was out there drunk, hanging out. Nah, I don't think there was a single one of my players that ever saw me take a drink. Even though I used to drink a little bit at times. I don't do it now because I'm older, but they never saw it because I never wanted to see them. I never wanted to see that kind of thing around them. I always want them to have respect for me. And I think they would lose respect for a person when they start seeing you doing negative stuff. So that's why I make sure I try to do everything as positive as I can. But you know, I'm not perfect. Nobody's perfect. But I try to be as positive as I can to all these young men that I instilled in their lives. And I'm hoping that some of the stuff I taught them, they still live by it today.
Yeah, you can't get no better than that, Coach. You got any other words you can go ahead and add? We're going to get the briefing outside.
Well, I just want to thank Mr. Wiggins for doing this for me, because this is stuff that happened that a lot of people in Williamston didn't know from behind the scenes. Because when they honored me over there in Williamston a couple of years ago, a lot of the kids came to me, especially girls, didn't realize I had won all the mini games, I had done all that stuff, because they were just in the moment. But I'm just glad I was able to do it, and I enjoyed doing it. And if I had to do it all again, I'd do it exactly the way I'd done it. It was just a joy being here. And to me, that's why one of my favorite movies is Hoosiers. That basketball team that nobody cared about, nobody thought anything about. And I'm glad I put Williamston on the map in basketball. And I'm hoping it can stay there and always be there, because basketball is just as important as football and baseball around here in Williamston, North Carolina.
I think it's a good thing for Williamston to have something like this happen in a long time. They hadn't had a state championship since, I think it was 1977, and that was baseball.
Early on, it's Anthony Slade to Matt Raymond, back to Slade, and he knocks down the three-point shot. And early on, it is Williamston grabbing the early lead. Then Lejeune comes back. It's Chad Thomas who sparks the Devil Pups there with the steal and the layup. Lejeune right back in it. Then Corey Price to Chad Thomas to Collis Air. Great inside passing, and Lejeune had a 4-point lead at the half. Go to the third quarter now, and it's Roosevelt Freeman in foul trouble. He gets the steal, and Williamston ties it at the end of 3 quarters. Go to the fourth quarter now, and it was all Williamston Tigers. Danielle Everett, the tournament MVP, gets the steal and knocks down the 3-point shot, and Williamston goes on to get the win. Final score, 64-57.
Won over Lejeune. Now their opponent, Bladenboro. Now they do have championship experience. They won it all a few years back with Wake Forest star Trelawney Owens leading the way. It's about all Williamston knows about their opponent.
The only thing they know is what I've told them. They've never heard of them. They don't even know where it is. I had to show it to them on the map. But the thing we're just concerned with is they're known for a lot of tradition and winning state championships.
The Tigers have won 21 straight. Their last loss to Chocowinity and the Daily News Holiday Invitational. They will go for their first state championship, and good luck to the Tigers.